Just wanted to share a little bit of my testimony as far as what God has done in my life since the beginning. And just to begin, my mom and dad were from Mexico, and very humble beginnings. And they came to the United States seeking better opportunity and also freedom from poverty. And they sought a life in a little town called Willits, California, up north, which is where I was born and raised. Anybody ever hear of Willits?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Very cool. And so that's where I was born and raised. And I'm one of 4 kids. I have an older sister, 2 younger brothers. I'm the oldest male. And my dad was a really hard worker, very industrious. He was a good provider for our family, very faithful to my mother. And then on the negative side, because my dad was abused, he was also abusive himself, emotionally and physically. I don't hold anything against him for what he did. It was just he was just basically repeating what was taught to him. And I understand that, of course, many years later. So he had a macho kind of a mindset, and kids were to be seen and not heard when I was growing up. So he was very authoritative. And so obviously he was wounded, and so he wounded others. Had a very loving mother, and she was an encourager, full of great faith. And she always told me that she believed in me, and that always really encouraged me. And so apparently when I went to kindergarten, my mom told me I spoke only Spanish. I really don't remember. So I guess I learned English when I was in kindergarten, even though I was born and raised here in the U.S. And I learned when I was really young that about bullies, and so beginning in kindergarten, I remember being chased home from school, and didn't fully understand it, but later I found out that because I was quiet and shy, and I was small, and I was thin, and I was Hispanic, it meant, as we know, bullies don't really need a reason to go after somebody. They just go after people, and it hasn't changed much nowadays. And now they have cyberbullying, which is even more tragic. And so I went on through school, and when I came to 4th grade, I remember I wasn't putting out my best effort, and I had poor grades. And I remember I was just fooling around, and when my dad saw my report card after the first quarter, he wasn't happy. I had like a failing grade in math and another low grade in another class. And then my dad told me, son, I didn't send you to school to flunk. You're going to come with me to work out in the fields. And so that's my introduction to field work. So we picked plums, pears, string beans, grapes. And when I got older, I dug post holes all day. I only paid like $1.65 an hour, so not much. It was really hard work, hard physical labor. But one good thing is my dad definitely introduced me to a good work ethic, which was good. Now when I came back, and I remember before I came back, my dad said to me when we were out in the hot sun, he would say, "Wilson, if you don't do well in school, this is your future with me the rest of your life." And I remember that scared me. It's like I saw my life flash before me. I didn't like what I saw. And so when I went back to school, and I remember before I was told that I was nothing but a dumb Mexican, I would never amount to anything, go back to Mexico where you came from. Never been to Mexico. A lot of ancestors from Mexico. I'd never been there myself. And so to a large extent, I believed what they were telling me, that I was dumb and I couldn't do the work. And so, but I wanted to give it an effort, and so I gave my best effort, and I noticed that I had some kind of a disability where I'd have to read something 2 or 3 times before I could remember what I read. But I was a hard worker, so I compensated for that by just reading until I understood it. And so I persevered. And anyways, my teacher saw the difference my first week back, and so shocked, he called Mr. Anderson. He called my dad and said, "What'd you do to your son?" He goes, "What do you? I've never seen him work so hard in all my life." And I guess after that he told him what he did. And so all of a sudden, the blessing was that I was able to see, wow, I guess I can do this work like anybody else can. So it really gave me confidence and built up my self-esteem, and so that helped me to put out my best effort. And then my dad began to see it after a while, and it was just a blessing to be able to excel in something. And when I got to 7th grade, I got jumped by 10 bullies, and again, they don't need any reason to come after you, and that was just a really bad, traumatic experience. And then eventually I got to high school, and my dad noticed I was making honor roll, honor society. I was winning different kinds of academic awards. So he saw my passion for learning, and I told him when I got to high school, Dad, I want to go to college someday. He said, okay, son, I don't have the money to send you, but you work hard, we'll find a way to make that happen. And then I remember when he first bought me my first, almost said computer, not back then, typewriter, a manual typewriter. And that was really helpful, and he had to make quite a bit of a sacrifice in order for that to happen. So I really have always valued what he did for me when he did that for me. And so, and I remember, and so when I got to high school, the bullies were always there, and they shoved me against lockers, and they continued to call me bad names, and they humiliated me in front of my friends. And so it was very shameful. And I remember in 9th grade, I got really sick, and I wound up getting appendicitis, and so I was in the hospital for about a week. And then my dad came to see me, and he said to me something to the effect that, well, son, it's quite obvious you're not going to do much with your body, so you better use your brain. It kind of reminded me of the Rocky movie, but it was the opposite. He said, it's obvious you won't do much with your brain, so you better use your body. So same kind of message, right? So, and you know, kind of funny, but it kind of hurt too at the same time. And then I remember shortly after, my mother was diagnosed with leukemia. And I guess my dad noticed because she had like less energy, she just wasn't the same. But I wasn't aware of it, neither were my siblings. And so it turned out that my mom for the next 3 years would go through chemotherapy. We'd go back and forth to UC Medical Center in San Francisco. And actually it helped her quite a bit. And she felt so good that she actually started working in a lumber mill until I think she got injured, and that kind of made things quite a bit worse. And then she wound up going back into the hospital, and I think for like 6 weeks, and she never came out. And so I lost my mom. She was only 36-year-old when she died, 36 rather. And I was a senior in high school, so she died just before I graduated. And but I remember that at the ceremony, it was kind of hard to be happy, you know, because she wasn't there. But I did the best I could, and even though I didn't know the Lord back then, my mom raised us as Catholic. I know she was a Christian Catholic. The Lord showed me that years ago after I would give my life to Christ, and so He gave me that as it's a reassurance. But I wound up winning from the time I would graduate from high school until I would finish college. I wound up winning 17 scholarships and grants, helped pay for my college. So basically, my grades paid for my college, and so what my dad said to me turned out to be very prophetic, whether he realized it or not. He said, son, just do your part, and we'll find a way. It kind of reminded me of this saying we've heard, you know, once you've done everything humanly possible, God will do the impossible. Even though I didn't know the Lord back then, but I knew His hand was on me even way back then. So I wound up going to college, and it was actually a very good experience. And even though I was still heartbroken and lonely, I met a lot of great people. Kind of crazy people too. It was really funny, guys and girls, and so the living in the dorms was a great experience. I was there for 4 years, and I remember at the same time, every now and then I still have nightmares about bullies. So, and then reading years later, that was probably post-traumatic stress, what I was experiencing, and I had a really hard time forgiving them because it was. I mean, I had the flashbacks all different times that they made my life miserable since kindergarten. And then, so I did well during my freshman year in college, and wound up making the Dean's Honorary List, and came home, and I wound up landing a job at a fast gas station as a cashier. And I was so happy because I was done with field work, working out in the hot sun, and a little bit better pay. And I remember one night, this one gentleman came to ask for gas, and I had just finished putting away all the money, locked up all the gas pumps, and I had to explain to him, I'm really sorry, but everything's all put away. I have to be out here by a certain time. And he was really offended, and I recognized that he was a bully. And he called me all kinds of bad names, threatened to beat me up again. And he tried to grab me to the little sliding glass window that separated me and him. So I just wisely backed off, and he left. And then I walked home. And as I walked home, it felt like my chest was going to come out, like my heart was pounding so strong, it felt like it was going to come out of my chest. But I remember saying to myself, that's the last time I'm going to let any bully ever pick on me ever again. So the next day I went to Sears, and I ordered a weight set, and a 100-pound weight set. And I remember working out fanatically until I got bigger and stronger. And then it was time to go back to college, so I went back for my sophomore year. and continued to work out with my friends. And then one day after we were done, one of my friends said, "Hey, let's arm wrestle." So we started arm wrestling, and then it kind of became like a regular habit after we would work out. And then one day one of my friends turned to me and said, "Vic," I said, "we think you have a gift." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you're the smallest guy here, you only weigh 150 pounds, and some of these guys weigh 220. And you beat them in like 1 second or less. Maybe you should enter a tournament." And I remember when I was younger, I was looking back, and my mom and I used to watch ABC Wide World of Sports, the Petaluma World Wrestling Championship. Does anybody remember that at all by chance? That's a long time ago. Oh, you do? Okay. So I'm not the only one.
Yeah, some of these people are pretty old.
Yeah. And so I remember I used to watch it with my mom, and we were like just amazed at how some of these thinner guys are beating some of these other people. And so that was my introduction. So I started training for it, and I entered that tournament, and I didn't do well. I lost. I wound up entering a few more. So I think I was 0 wins and 7 losses. And I thought, well, this is probably not for me. I'm just going to hang it up. And so, shortly after, I wound up graduating from college, and I graduated with a bachelor's degree in Spanish and a bachelor's in social work. And then right after that, I wound up landing a job as a waiter. And I always wanted to get a job as a waiter. I thought it'd be fun. It was really, and it was really good for me because I was really shy, and so it makes you talk, right? And so I had some really great conversations with people. Met some of the best people, working at I think it was called Casa Maria, then eventually became El Torito restaurant on Arden Way. You guys probably remember that, huh? Maybe some of you. Yeah. So that was a really enjoyable experience. During that time, I had a friend who was also Catholic, and she had just given her life to Christ, and she asked me, "Would you like to go to church with me tonight?" I said, "Sure." And she was going to a Christian church, and I think it was a non-denominational church at the time. And so, and I remember going, and the music was beautiful. I never heard praise and worship before. And the pastor preached an awesome message, and at the end, he asked, "Would anybody like to know Jesus? Come in to the front and I'll talk with you." And I was really drawn by that. I thought, what does it mean to know Jesus? I know about him. So I went up there, and he shared the plan of salvation. And he asked me, "Would you like to ask the Lord into your heart?" I go, "Yeah, I think this is what I've been looking for all my life, but I didn't know how to put it in words." So I remember praying with him. And then I physically felt scales come off my eyes. And then I walked back to my seat, and all these people came up to me and they hugged me, and I couldn't stop crying for like 20 minutes. And so I think God was healing me, and I experienced his peace, his joy. And I guess what was significant was all the bullies that ever picked on me, they were always Caucasian, and then these people who were hugging me were Caucasian. So God was showing me, these are my true followers, which was so cool. It was a blessing. And so as a result, I got plugged in, and I got discipled, and I was part of every Sunday morning I went to discipleship class, and I was taught how to read the Bible and how to pray. I got plugged into a home group, and next thing I knew, I was ushering. That was pretty fun, and so it was a fantastic experience. And I remember when I got saved, saying to the pastor, I said, "I just know I never want this happy feeling to ever leave me." He said, "It won't." He said, it's for real. And he was right. It was for real. And so as it turned out along the way, I wound up going back to college, and I wound up earning a master's degree in school counseling because I wanted to be a school counselor. And then I went an extra year and a half to pick up a second master's in marriage, family, and child counseling. And I also earned 3 community college credentials in counseling supervising, and psychology. So 10 years of my life in my 20s was spent going to college, but at least it helped me to get set on my career. So they were productive years. And then, like I said, I gave my life to Christ. And then after a couple years after I had served the Lord, the desire to arm wrestle started to come back. And so I kept trying to pray it away, thinking it was ungodly and prideful. And I shared this with a Christian brother. He said, "No, wait a minute." I said, "I'm not so sure." He said, "You know what, we're going to pray if this is God, that he increase your desire, and if not, he take it away." It's that simple. So we prayed that, and the desire increased, and I went to a Capital Christian Center Church on a Sunday morning, and there was a guest evangelist that was there, and he said, "Turn to Psalm 98:1, and it read, 'Oh, sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done wonderful things. His right hand and his holy arm have gained the victory for him.'" And I felt like electricity go up through my body, and I was just trembling. And he spoke to me and he said to me, I want you to go back into that arena and tell them where real strength comes from. I said, wow, okay, Lord. And said, but I never did it long enough to be any good at it. They're not going to listen to me. I'm not a champion. And he told me, I'm going to take care of all that. And so I wound up meeting a group of professional arm wrestlers, and I went to practice every Saturday for 2 years. I learned all these amazing moves, and so it was a really good experience. And then I remember, and I finally started placing. I took a 3rd place there, 2nd place, started winning a couple titles, and then I finished 3rd in the state the year before. And then 6 weeks before going back to compete at the state championships, is when I came across his arm wrestling group. And then I met this guy there named Dave Summerall. He said, Vic, I'm going to go with you to the state championships. I believe you can win it this year. I said, Dave, I've only been coming 6 weeks, so if it doesn't happen until next year, I believe I can do it next year. He goes, no. He said, you know enough to win now. That's why I'm going with you. I said, oh, okay. So he was a good encourager. And so my opening match was against this gentleman named David Lindbergh, and he went up to the table. He had a goatee, no shirt on, growled like a grizzly bear, slammed his forehead against the table. And I'm standing there, I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm like, and so we wound up wrestling, and I lost after 20 seconds, and then I went off the stage, and my coach goes, come here. And I said, now I know that Lindbergh is stronger, he's more experienced, he's a veteran arm wrestler, he's a champion arm wrestler, but that's not why you lost. You lost before the match started because you were afraid. He said, so you need to regroup, and hopefully we're going to get him later. And so you had to lose twice to be out. So, and I was aware of that. So I wound up refocusing, and I wound up winning match after match after match. And then I needed one more win to get into the finals, and I was pitted against Alex Ariola, the defending state champion, to beat me easily the year before. But this time I knew how to top pull. And so the ref started us off. I got a good grip. I pulled straight back and over. Within 2-3 seconds, I beat him. And I walked off the stage, and my coach was really excited. He goes, Vic, you just beat the defending state champion. You realize that? That was the biggest win of my life. And he goes, we got Lindbergh in the finals, so get ready. So now I was beaming with confidence. I just believed that I could do it. And I went up, and then right before I went up there, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said to me, today I'm going to make you California state champion. So I received the word of knowledge, even though what the word of knowledge was back then. Frankie told me years later, he goes, Vic, that was the word of knowledge. Oh, it was? I didn't know. I just figured he was my coach, okay? Yeah. And so I remember going up there, and Lindbergh got up there, did the same thing, slammed his head against the table. And this time it didn't even faze me. I was just in a zone, just focused what I was going to do, because I just believed, because the Lord gave me a prophetic word. And I got a really good grip, and he kept trying to re-grip. And I remember my coach had told me, if they keep trying to re-grip, they don't like the strength in your hand, and they're trying to get a better grip. But I kept holding on to my grip, and then finally the ref started this. And then I remember, I think it was like 94, it was a long time ago. I could hear the ref, he said, Victor Torres goes over the top. We have a new California state champion, ladies and gentlemen. I was the quiet, shy kid, and he was the big bad bully. I walk off the stage like in a daze, like, what happened? And my coach walked up to me, and he said, Vic, today David slew Goliath. And when he said that, he wasn't even a Christian, but I led him to the Lord years later. And so that was the biggest win of my life that would propel me to go on to win 26 world championships, and also 11 U.S. national titles, and 27 state titles, including 17 years in a row, and then 148 titles right and left-handed. And at one point, I had won, I think 26 world titles within a 14-year span, and also 5 years in a row concurrently with 2 different associations, just like with boxing, they have WA, WCW. So that happened. Another time I won it 4 years in a row. And then when I think 2010 was the last time that I competed for a state championship. Also won, I've been world champion 3 consecutive decades too. But 2010 was the last time I competed for a world title, because I think I'd won 3 world titles that last time I competed, and there were quite a few wrestlers complained that I won it almost every year, so they changed the rules after that. I wasn't invited back. That's just the way it went. Yeah. But I competed in a tournament back in February, a different association, and I took a first, right, and left, and so I qualified for the World Championships in Florida in September.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, so I was going to just share. So, a little bit later, the Lord spoke to me when I was praying one day, and He told me, "You're going to meet your wife next year." I said, "Excuse me, Lord, what did you say?" I said, "You're going to meet your wife next year." "Okay, that's what I thought you said." And I wound up meeting her through a mission trip to South America. And then we were married, I think, 17 and a half years, had 3 beautiful children. And unfortunately, along the way, she wound up embracing a different faith, or a different religion, I should say, a New Age. And so I wound up raising my 3 kids as a full-time single parent. And then my oldest child, Joshua, graduated from Sac State a couple years ago, earned 3 AA degrees and also a bachelor's in English. And he's also been my editor for my books that I've written. And my daughter Rachel is going to graduate in December with 2 bachelor's degrees, one in Asian studies and one in art. And my youngest son Jonathan, a special needs child, diagnosed with autism when he was 15 months old. The Lord's given me prophecies over the years, though, that there's a day that's coming when he's going to be healed. And I've actually taken him to a Bethel church called the Healing Rooms. And each time we've been there, he's improved each time. And then I also take him to Pastor Frankie's Clearway Ministries team, and they've all shared with me, the Lord spoke to us, a day is coming, he's going to be completely healed. And so I've always held fast to that confession of faith, trusting God for what He's doing. And so along the way, the Lord also prompted me to write about my life story. And so I've written 4 books, 3 are published, and the first 3 books won 6 international awards. And the most recent book finished #1 in the world for Best Christian eBook of the Year and Best Self-Help Nonfiction. It's called The True Making of a Champion. And I won 2 gold medals. And then my 4th book should be coming out in a couple months. It's called The Fire of God from Heaven's Throne Room. And also my son is also my editor. And then the gentleman that came to film me tonight, Rayford Johnson, he's the one that helped me to get my books published and helped me to begin with public speaking, and he also is involved with a lot of ministry and does a great job with ministering, especially to prisoners. He's been doing that for years too. And so, and last of all, I was going to share, so I also, a little over a year ago, Pastor Frankie Guerrero asked me if I would join his prayer team, and so I started doing that, and he told me there'll be a greater anointing on you over time because you're working with a lot of others who have the same passion for praying for people. And so I said, I wasn't really sure what he was referring to, but I always have prayed for people at tournaments who had injuries or the gym when I go work out. But there was one stretch I remember Lord using me, and I prayed for like 6 people, and all 6 people in a row got healed. And then I went to this tournament back in, I think it was October, and a friend of mine walked up to me, he was a professional arm wrestler. He said, "Vic, can you pray for my dad? He has stage 4 cancer, supposed to die 2 weeks ago, outlived the diagnosis, cancer throughout his body." I said, "Sure, I'd be happy to." So I got to pray for him with his wife and a few other friends that they brought. And then a week and a half later, she posted on Facebook that they'd gone to the doctor and they couldn't find any trace of cancer at all.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was amazing. I was just shocked. And so that right there outdoes all the titles I've ever won in arm wrestling, because it was just unbelievable. And then Pastor Frankie and I were ministering to another gentleman a few months back who also had stage 4 cancer, lost one of his kidneys, and had a tumor the size of a softball. And there was a couple others that prayed for him too on our team. And then he came back 3 weeks later and told us the doctor said that cancer was gone and there were no more traces either. So I just love what God is doing in these last days. I just believe He's going to pour out His Spirit. We're going to see miracles that we've never seen before. So it's really exciting to be a part of what He's doing, despite the fact of what we've been seeing, of course, in these last days with all the challenges. So in ending, I was going to share a poem with you. And actually, the Lord gave this poem to me originally back in 1987, and He had me recently revise it. And like I said, it's the title to my next book. It's called The Fire of God from Heaven's Throne Room. And it goes like this. Rainbows of heaven, His colors divine, blaze with liberty in a world so maligned. They reflect God's beauty, His only desire to restore what He has for us, His glistening fire. The Lady of the Harbor stands mighty and true. The torch burns with memories of the trailblazers she knew. Heroes of the faith, defenders of the truth. Their blood cries for revival to break through. Repent, America. The Lord's coming is at hand. You must come clean in this final hour, from coast to coast and all across God's land, for a heart purified has dunamis power. The consuming fire that burned at Moses' feet will ignite the starlight of your soul, and the zeal for God that you earnestly seek will radiate like sunshine and make you whole. Mayhem and violence threaten your existence, while men cry out for a Savior they haven't known. But at a trumpet sound, without resistance, God's Son will return and claim his rightful throne. The cross's message must be carried to and fro, to heal broken hearts and make them new. The harvest is plenty and ripe to reap and sow, while your flaming eyes reveal Christ dwells in you. Let your heart soar when you speak God's name. Feed the hungry, thirsty, and let the stranger in. Clothe the naked and tend to the lame, and tell others that he's coming again. Break the chains of the prisoners to be freed, and bring everyone home that's gone astray. A life of holiness is God's decree. Let the Lord draw near and walk with him today. The bush that burned bright in Moses' day now seeks a permanent place in your heart. God's Spirit is calling you to obey, so he can assign you your chosen part. What else is there to live for? What else is there to die for? The fire of God that burns within me is the fire of God which consumes me. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. I'm coming to renew hearts and take you higher, to save souls and give hope to the downcast, while my glory strikes like a lightning prairie fire. In the blaze of the morning, or in the peace of the night, he'll come without warning, like a thief in the night. Pray for my Spirit to ignite your soul, so you're prepared to meet your bridegroom. Only I can save you and make you whole through the fire of God from heaven's throne room. Thank you, everyone.